people asked me about what to talk today, so I came up with this idea because in the recent period with COVID and so on, it has come to very clearly that how people are getting very insecure as to what's going to happen. If it is any consolation, it's a worldwide phenomenon they call pandemic. So you find people resorting to different things. One thing I noticed is because of the limitation of movement, people find it difficult to get contact with close friends. And so many people are being torn apart. The thing that has helped to substitute to some degree is this Zoom thing, which managed to bring people like me to see you all doing something. At least your face, even if it's on the screen, it is still something. But what is also obvious are a lot of people are dropping off. That means it's like people are dying and getting sick and so on. But the interesting thing is, of the people I know, most of the people who are dying and going or dead by now, they are not because of COVID. They're because of other things like heart attack, and this cancer especially, and things like that. COVID, you have a few, yes. When we hear some of our friends get COVID, it's got COVID, but most of them survive. So, but what happens is, I find it a bit sad, is at the last moment, some of them, they just change faith. They're Buddhist, and after that they decide to become some other faith. I wouldn't say anything bad about the other faith, but other religions. But I mean, Buddhist is so profound, so good, so practical, and so on. Why? Well, what need is there to change? Do you think you won't die because you change another religion? No, you still die. What makes you go to a better place when you die, when you change your religion? No, you have no confirmation of that. Somebody comes back and says, yes, I went to a great place after I died. No, nobody said. How many people can tell you that? And so I think this all comes up with all this fear and sorrow and so on. For example, let people ask me about this euthanasia. People who want to die, so can you please kill me so I can don't have to suffer so much? So people ask me, I say, you never ask a monk that. You definitely say no to euthanasia. But I tell you this, what makes you think that by helping him to die, you will go to a better place? Maybe you help him to go to a worse place, and you will be responsible for it. So how? You're able to take the responsibility? Go ahead. So you become part of that karma. Once there was this lady, she came to me. She said she wants to commit suicide. She's okay, and she has a family, she has kids. And she said, I don't feel a meaning of life. I want to die. So I said, what makes you think that when you die, you go to a better place? Now you're in the human world, you can still practice and do something. After that, nobody really knows. So after that, I think she thought about it, and she didn't die. She's still alive today, and she's still practicing. So people in their moments of desperation and difficulties, and especially people who have nobody to talk to, then they end up doing strange things. And that moment is a very important moment. It's like you're at the gates, and then you don't know which way you want to go. You better not make a mistake, man. Well, you make a mistake, this is probably one of your greatest mistakes. So you remember one of the Dhamma Pada was just the same. You may go to the mountains, you may go to the hills, you may go to the shrine, you may go to the cave. Nowhere can you find, those are not safe refuge. And the safe refuge is in the triple gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and the practice was the Four Noble Truths. And so this tells you very well that when you take a refuge, it's better that you take it till you die. So there are a number of things I would like to say. So in a way, you may say that this is a kind of talk on death meditation, which is okay because Wesak Day is included the triple sacred day, birth, enlightenment, and parinibbana. So they always talk about enlightenment, but why don't they talk about the death? See, when the Buddha parinibbana passed away, everybody was so sad, except, of course, those enlightened ones. And of course, the Buddha himself definitely wasn't too sad about it, right? Why? Because in fact, he was actually cut short. He could live longer, but he said, I've done what I've done for other people, for myself, and I'm good following to carry on the teachings, so I can die. So he was, he cut short 3 months or something like that, earlier than he was to die. So, and he died happily, peacefully, and he went through the normal cycle where the Buddhas and the Pachika Buddhas pass away. They went through all the jhanas and attainments, and finally, parinibbana. And that was probably the happiest time of his life, because you people got so much problem. I come and start talking to him. Buddha, I got so much problem. I got tautia, I got backache. But he was very patient. He listened to everybody. At this time, I remember Keshri Dhammananda of Refuge. He would sit there. He would come to him and throw to him all his problems. So he became an expert solutions. So when the person parinibbana passed away, that would be the happiest moment of their life. If you know what nibbana is. If you don't know, they say, terrible, nothing left, finish kaput, finish emptiness, how boring. And that's because they don't know what it is. But actually, it's the greatest moment of life. And another example, like Ananda, how Ananda died, I suppose, you have read. And then before he passed, parinibbana, already his families, the two family, one on one side, another on one side of the river. One was the Vajjan, I think, and then one was the Sakyan. And they were quarreling over his relics. So before he died, the people were already quarreling over his relics. So when he passed away, it must be the happiest time because I don't have to listen to all your quarrels anymore. So what happened was he flew into the river, flew up in the air, and while he was above the river, which acted as a boundary to the two nations, one part of the relics fell on one side and part of the relics fell on the other side. That solved the problem for a while. So parinibbana or death to these people who have attained enlightenment will be the really happy time. Even if you have not, but you have been practicing the Dhamma for a long time and you accumulated a lot of good karmas, all that meritorious deeds will be waiting for you. And then there are a number of stories about this, like people who are suffering from cancer, suffering from a lot of things, and before they died, they are very peaceful. There's this story, this in Thai. There's this story called Hang Kam, it means the law of karma. But this man collected a lot of stories told to him, by so many people, because his what you call his writings become very famous. So people report what happened to their relatives when they die and so on. For example, one incident was, a number of them was that after they died, they came back to the relatives and told him, one how do you know it's a real after death communication? And for example, one story was this lady who passed away, and she died. And before she died, she requested the husband to let her put her in a dress that she wanted to. It was a dress where she wore when she went to meet the king at the time. So after when she passed away, the husband couldn't find the dress. Where did she get the dress? But later he appeared to him and told him where the dress was kept. So she found where the dress was kept. So which is kind of proof that it was a true communication. But she also said that at the moment of death at that time, it was the most happiest time of her life. You listen? It seems this has occurred more than once. So you see, so what happens is when you've done a lot of good deeds, you're not afraid of death. And death, when it comes with all the good karma. The problem is only those 50 case. So the good karma is pulling on one side, the bad karma is pulling on the side. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah. that is where the problem comes. So you have to be the cheerleader. Come on, good karma, come on. So you become the cheerleader. Okay, now. So coming back to our situation here, there's this COVID lockdowns. This thing has somehow, I've learned to live with it before this COVID situation. You know why? Because firstly, just before this COVID situation, about a couple of years ago, I've been harassed by a certain health problem. Nothing fatal or terminal, but my body was aching, itching all over. Some kind of eczema was going on. And so what happened was, I went to see all these expert dermatologists here, dermatologists there. I think they're all guessing. Of course, they did something. They're full of creams. You put cream here, cream there, everywhere cream. Of course, it helps somewhat, but not. So finally, I have to look for my own. I have to look for my own cure. I have to do my own Dhamma therapy. So when I do my Dhamma therapy, what happens is I have to put aside all my plans. All put aside, because I cannot be interviewing and giving talks and at the same time watching the each very intense each. I cannot be doing all that. Either I watch intense each or I deal with Dhamma. So now I have to put aside all my teachings and retreats. Everything I have to put aside. And concentrate fully on my own health issue. I know that, for example, that the main cause is the mind. Because once I go into meditation, the thing goes off. Once the retreat comes, full force it comes. I'm okay for a while, okay? Then after that, 2 or 3 days before the retreat, it comes back in full force. So it must be something to do with the retreats. I don't mind, but the retreat, because I've been teaching meditation continuously for how umpteen years, 20, 30, 40 years I've been teaching, and I suppose the mindset is enough. You always say you want to meditate and go into retreat. Now you go, you don't do any teaching. My suspicion is that, because when I watch behind the conscious mind, in the unconscious levels, there's something happening that causes it to come down. So fortunately, I have enough experience to go into that deeper level to find out what's happening. And so once I got the real clue and cue, about 2 days, everything over. But the period has helped me to able to look into this thing called Dhamma therapy. Now, this is a simple word, but when you go to Dhamma therapy, what therapy do you do? So many things. So this is the first thing I did. I put everything, and just concentrate on the practice. Of course, here in this case, with the idea of looking into the causes and conditions of arising of the disease. So after that, I got cured. I cured myself generally all. Of course, there's a little bit of secondary things like allergies, but those are nothing. So after that, I'm ready to take on some work again. When I'm ready to take on some work, here comes Mr. COVID. When Mr. COVID comes, no retreats, only Zoom retreats you may have. In summer now, Italy is getting better. They're opening up again with all the things, and so, but with the distancing and everything, social distancing and all those healthy habits. So something can still be done. Normally, my retreats will go up to 40, 50 per day, per retreat, and for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. But now with these conditions, the most they take is 20. 20 yogis. That is fine for me. For me, 20 is a piece of cake. And with all the social distancing, it's all great with me. Because even during all these retreats, I'm overtaxed. And when I'm overtaxed, I get sick, and I meet so many people. Everyone here got a flu, they got a flu, and I get sick. Now, actually, this COVID period, I'm healthier than ever. Isn't it the irony of the whole thing? So actually, I have, even though I sometimes I don't feel like to being just in the moment. You have to be just in the moment. You cannot do any much plans. You do all the plans of all the retreats I had in this part of Europe, that Europe, and I got plans for having training teachers in this part of Europe, that part of Europe. All has to be cancelled. Once he was going to come, this place got a spike, that place got a spike. That cannot. But one thing is sure, that once you're practicing and your concentration and mindfulness is good, no problem. COVID or no COVID, your mental state is in a good state. Your state of your pocket, that is a different story. That is a different story. But in the state of mental state, that is most important at first. After that, other things can come into play. So, in the terms of what I can tell you is, in the terms of this healing and COVID period, the most important thing is watch your state of mind. Because the mind, when you have vipassana inside and you go back to the state of mind, it goes to a basic or universal reality. All those are just many temporary manifestations of this ultimate reality. So at that point, for example, the concepts are not there. There is no time. It is a timeless space. There's no you. You are not there. You are absent. In fact, the place and space are also concepts. When you close your eyes, where are you? So everything goes back to the basic realities of nama, mind and body process arising and passing away. And so you follow the mental process of arising and passing away. That is when with mindfulness and with concentration, that is when you really take refuge in the triple gem. What is taking refuge? For taking refuge, you see 4 noble truths. The suffering. Do you take refuge in suffering? No, you don't take refuge in suffering. Cause of suffering, craving, you take refuge in craving? No, you don't take refuge in craving. Although some people do. Third, cessation of suffering. Do you take refuge in that? Yes, you take refuge in that. But no, that really refuge in suffering, from cessation of suffering, is Nibbana. Okay? Of course, you haven't been enlightened yet. Of course, not yet lah. Waiting for you only lah. So, but no, it's coming. But you take refuge in the way to the cessation of suffering. The Noble Eightfold Path. Of course, the Noble Eightfold Path has many levels, preliminary level, noble level, and so on. You're not at the global level yet, never mind. Then you're at the preliminary level or the root level. Root level is taking precepts and karma. And at most, you reach the first insight knowledge, second. After that, it will be the preliminary level. You take refuge in that. Why do I say that? You see, once Sariputta was asked, the stream, let's call him stream. What is the stream? Then Sariputta answered very clearly, the Noble Eightfold Path is the stream. So if you practice and you get a noble path in your stream, the stream in your stream, in your mind stream, the noble stream in because your mind stream becomes the noble stream, and then it becomes your true refuge. Because there's only one way for this stream. It flows to Nibbana, the sea of Nibbana. So when you go to practice this vipassana, arising and passing away, you flow, you feel the mind passing away. You're not there. The mind is just the vipassana consciousness, the vipassana mindfulness, the vipassana is just gathering momentum, flow, no? Going on to deeper and deeper insights. The more deeper you go, the more safer you are, the more you are in the refuge. This is what actually, to me, I think is taking noble in the refuge. Of course, when you attain to the supramundane, it's a different story. Because when you attain to the supramundane state, the supramundane state is there all the time. Except you can't see it. It is accessible to you all the time. So you cannot, it doesn't run away. People die, but this supramundane state is there all the time. You already have it connected with the consciousness. So that's why they say there's no turning back. There is no skeptical doubts. If there's skeptical doubts and the last moment you change religion, it's not a stream enough. He can be a pretty good man, but he's not a stream enough. Okay? So that's where the real taking of the refuge comes. So let's say a person is going to die. What do you do? I tell you 2 recent stories about death and COVID. This is my experience. I'm not going to prove it to anybody. Take it as a very nice story, okay? During this period, there was one friend of mine. He's a Dutch. He has been with me and with Dasana. And then when he's meditating, one day I received a message from him. Bhante, COVID caught me. He's not young, he's elderly. He has been helping to teach Vipassana in Netherlands and so on, so on. If those who have really came, for example, who has been to the teacher's training course in Italy, he was there. Okay, he was sitting on the other side. Really Kim was on this side, and he was sitting on the other side together with all the Italians. Now, write to you in better times. After that, I didn't hear of it anymore. Later, very soon, they have this Dutch group, which is very supportive. And they, all the leading ladies there wrote to me, so-and-so is in an intensive care unit. They have to put him into tranquilizers. He didn't want tranquilizers, but he said he has to take it because he has to sleep. He was there for about 3 weeks or more. No? In between, every night, the group was doing metta to him, and I was doing metta to him also. This is a good friend. So I did. In fact, I have a lot of people to do metta to nowadays. So now, not self-healing, I'm trying to heal other people far away, far away. So I did. And after a while, it got better. No? After that, it got worse again. No? And then I said, this is not good. No? So I went into deeper concentration. What happens was, one day, when I was outside the concentration, I thought I had a mental contact with him. It's very real. No? It's like speaking to somebody, you know the person is there. He told me, Bhante, I'm going. I said, no, not now. You're not going now. Netherlands need you. So I went to deeper absorptions and concentration. And then after some time, I could connect. When you're used to teaching meditation, you can connect. You know whether your mind is connected or not. Whether he knows or not is a different matter. Then he completely woke up. When he woke up, one of those Dutch people asked him, what happened during those days? You were completely in coma. You completely not there at all. Oh, you know what he said? It was beautiful. It was wonderful. It was so colorful. It was fantastic, And you know what he said? Dasana was there. By that time, Dasana already passed away, And Reverend Sujiva was there. Was I? I was just trying to give metta, but his mind could connect. So he said, with all these good things, he pulled it through. So he's alive today. It's quite a serious case here. It takes some time before he could start to learn to walk again and all those things. But you can see from his face, despite all those, he was very happy. Fantastic. He always smile like that. The other cases, of course, Dasana. The one I was managed to get in contact was because Dhamma was there with him, and he took all the video and the Google Duo. I don't know what was that. So I managed to, because he is a teacher himself and a practitioner, so he must have reached some level. I don't know what, but he reached some level. So the best thing I thought would be to give him the Upassamano Sati. Upassamano Sati is a recollection of peace. In this case, it is peace of Nibbana. Yes, of course, it doesn't mean that one has to actually experience Nibbana to practice that meditation. But if you have, then of course it's perfect. That means this practice is a samatha meditation, but very close to vipassana. And it can bring you right to the door of Nibbana. You know how. If you have experienced this stream entry and all this fruition before, you just go straight, zoom inside. And even you have not, you will very quickly calm all your formations down. For example, one of the things in the recollection, the number of recollection, etang, santang, etang, panitang, it is peaceful, it is very refined, sabba sankara samato, the stilling of all formations, the relinquishment of all or what you call accumulations, but some pupati nisago, tanha kayo, destruction of craving, tanha kayo, virago, no, tanha kayo, virago, yes, dispassion, nirodha, cessation, and nibbana. These qualities. You see, on the first one, it says sabba sankhara samato. If you have been practicing meditation before, the nature of sankharas, formations, is very clear to you. How, when you go into the ultimate reality, is how each particle of reality, from the very basics, how they are broken up, how they are joined. They're like a puzzle, like a jigsaw, mini microscopic jigsaw puzzle. They go starts fitting into each other and then becoming something. These are formations. And when you're so aware of vipassana, you keep seeing how these formations come and go, how they're created, how they are dissolved, then you know clearly what formations are. The mind knows. Important is that the mind, the consciousness know. You are just a concept, okay? Although it's a very important concept. But when the mind knows it, you just know the mind is like a computer button, no? You just press boom, it works. No, you press the wrong button, sorry. If it doesn't work, at least hopefully it doesn't get worse. So you have this computer. So what's the mind? Yeah, sankhara samato, tranquilizing some sankharas. Yeah. I know. The mind will immediately zoom everything. No, these are what you call languages of the mind. And the Buddha's teachings, I find, the languages of the mind incorporated in the teachings. Of course, it is in Pali. Pali. So when you hear that, all the sankharas will come down, especially all those violent and terrible ones. No, and the mind comes down very quickly, extremely quickly. This works also with certain psychological problems. They quickly come down. But how effective it is, it depends on how much you understand the sankharas. What are sankharas? So the mind, when you say sankhara samato, tranquilizing of some of the formations, the mind gets that. Okay, the computers start working, and then you come down. Sabu pati nisago, the relinquishments of these accumulations. Upadi are all those latent stuff, especially those yucky stuff, underneath, growing underneath. You cannot see. But when this one, often when you go into it, in, out, you can see some of it. So when you make this, may the aspiration, may this upadi, may these accumulations be relinquished. You bring the detached mind into these levels and you remove it. This is how one of dealing with the latent tendencies, accumulations. So it goes very deep into the consciousness and the defilements and the causes of suffering. So what I did was I introduced this to him. I let him slowly a bit for a while. It seems at least noticeable to calm him down. Where it took him, I don't know. Obviously, we know better. But no, this is one of the things, one of the powerful methods I know that, in terms of trouble, in terms of death, this you always go back to the reality. And if it's difficult because of so many conditions around, if you have been practiced before, you use these buttons. Boom, it works. This is a very powerful method. It is taking refuge in the triple gem when you die. Of course, the most simple method is, of course, the triple gem itself, as people understand it. This is the articles of faith, the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. This means different things to different people. But generally, as practitioners, you generally know that finally it is Sila Samadhi Panya. So finally you go to the actual practice of Vipassana inside. But for a lot of ordinary people, this is where the faith is. Faith is a very strong thing because it is emotional and it reaches to the depths of the individual being. How strong, how correct it is, it depends on the understanding. How correct. How strong it is how strong the emotion connected to the faith links to the innermost part of the person. In this case, often it is more powerful than intellectualization. Because intellectualization works at the level of conceptuality. They can talk very well, they understand, they can speak and argue with you, everything very well. But when it comes to die, they panic. Zero, what am I going to do? I'm going to die. All the intellectual thing doesn't help them at all. Yeah, because the intellectual cannot go beyond that. You may read about that, but it's all reading. So faith is a very powerful thing. It stirs up a lot of factors in you. So in those cases, people who have a devotional, what you call side of them, just powerful. The simple method is you recite the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Just recite that. Just by reciting that, you have some faith. One by one, every recitation, it accumulates. The force accumulates. I remember once where I was a bit down. And then what shall I do? I just recite. I don't do anything. I don't do much contemplation. I just recite. Because the word Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha is enough to tick something in me, So I just recite. Hey, after that, I'm quite okay. So this is also one of my methods whereby my concentration is sometimes not so good, So because the mood is not so good. So when I see the mood is not so good, a bit bad. So it is all Bhagavarang Samma Sambuddho Vijayarana and okay again, Okay, then I can go into concentration again. So it is very simple, but also effective methods. More in terms of danger, in terms of what, it's more effective than this intellectual thinking. There's this interesting example, between the different Buddhist cultures, There are all these cultures involved when great dangers comes to you. What happens to a person, let's say, in Malaysia, for example, when they're going to die or they see something which is terrible, what do they say? They say, Alamak. They say, Alamak, but two words. Allah is gone, Ma is mother, right? So, but in Thailand, what do they say? Buddho, danger. Buddho, they just keep saying Buddho. This is simple and one way, And then in Burma, which is what do they say? Anicca. Which is impermanence. You have to accept already. This is really better because it's actually vipassana. So you see the things of the different cultures. These are simple words, but it hits the point straight. Much time have I got myself out. So the third thing is, of course, important is recollection of death. Now, recollection of death is done It's a preparatory for death. Not just preparatory for death, it is a good preparation for death. No? I've been doing this meditation on death in some form or other for a long time, and I find it very useful. I even have a death shrine in my room. I have a skeleton, real skeleton there, and it's all the symbols of death in my room, including a small sculpture of a cicada. You know cicada? The one that makes a lot of noise at night. Why cicada? Because the cicada is under the earth for a long time, and it flies out to mate. After that, it dies. And the larva will go back to the earth for maybe some years now. What is interesting about this cicada is, when the emperor or empress in China dies, they put the cicada in his mouth. No? I think it's a symbol of rebirth. Put cicada in his mouth. The jade cicada, because they get a big jade and put it in his mouth. So along my shrine there, I put incense there every day and so on. Sometimes I meditate on it. Especially when meditation doesn't go very well, I meditate on it, it works. And I noticed that sometimes when near moments where it's near death, near accident or whatever, or even in these times of COVID, I'm not frightened. No, I'm not frightened. It just doesn't happen to me, death. In fact, I think I look at death as my good friend. I have some kind of instinct that tells me, death tells me, if you want to die, just tell me, I just come and take you off. No pain, nothing. It's a very good death, very good death. No. I mean, this is my mind talking to myself. So, and I do believe that there is some truth in it. When you respect death, then death will respect you in return. When you venerate death, when death comes, it will be good and peaceful. So this is one thing that recollection of death is good. Besides that, of course, it gives you energy to practice. It gives you some concentration and all that. I think the very important thing that you can be at peace in the most critical moments in your life. Because if you can face death, you can face anything. Because in death, you lose everything. Oh, my dear husband, my dear wife, my dear children, my dear house. Oh, they're all going away. What am I going to do? Well, they're going away anyway. Whether you like it or not. The idea of you is to remain calm. Now, coming closer to death. Now when we talk about death, there are two types of death. One is when you know it is coming. The other is you don't know that it is coming. So do you know it is coming? Most of you, I think, don't know it is coming. But it is coming, right? Where and how and how, you don't know. But if your hair is getting white, my mind is all white. Maybe it is quite close. But if you know it, it isn't a great consolation either. It just means the days are numbered. And you don't have time to do anything else. You've got to put aside all your problems, all your responsibility, and face the problem. So we come back to step one, where we started, be in the here and now, meditate. That's the best way to get ready for that. Because besides that, you make all proper arrangements. My last will of testament, you get my diamond ring, you get my Mercedes Benz. Okay, after that, you settle everything. And after that, don't think about it, because even after you die and you're given your will, they'll still quarrel about it. You know, the challenge of will. So anyway, you did what you could. That's what is most important. And your mind is at peace. Then concentrate on your own spirituality, because there's nobody else can help you then more than you, what you can do for yourself. Get a place, go a quiet place, and if medical help is necessary, and then you just go and meditate. There was this terrible case I saw once. The husband was having cancer. His days were numbered. They came to see me. The wife was there. I said, please go into intensive retreat. This is the best you can do yourself. And the wife said, why must he go to the intensive retreat? He can still earn and make money. And they are not poor, they're rich. My husband, before he dies, he can make more money for who? For her. Who else? After that, I said, sorry guys, I'm not in the mood. I got to leave. Because if I don't leave, I'm going to say something terrible. So I'm going to be diplomatic. It's not my business. So how do you contemplate on death? The different ways you can contemplate on death. They are all written in the Visuddhimagga. But one can be creative about it. One way is you remember somebody recently died. And you look at a person and you remember the face. Then you sit and meditate. And you think even how he was alive and how he died, how he was alive and how he was alive. After that, finally you focus just on the dead body. And then with the thought of impending death, it comes. You should, of course, you have to do it with mindfulness. You are frightened and you get scared, then you cannot do it. You must be able to accept death reality, and then from there you turn to yourself. When you turn to yourself, after that, by then you should have got some concentration. And the thing is a bit dramatic. But when you're able to, after some time, you're able to accept it, the mind actually settles in a calm state. The peaceful calm state with the dead body as a nimitta. Sometimes it's not nimitta, it's some kind of sign of death that is there. And it's a peaceful state, it flows. You're watching death, you accepted death, and you're at peace with death. Then you go look at the flow within yourself, and then it becomes vipassana. That's where the switch from samatha to vipassana. That's one way. The other way is, of course, which sometimes I do when I'm bored. I'm really bored. I want to do something. So I start recollecting all the people who have died. I know this fellow, my grandmother, my grandfather, my teacher, Sadhu Pandita, my other teacher, Uzawana, the Lungpo from MDMC. After that, now it's getting closer and closer, Now it's Dasana, and now it's James Ong, now who's this, Jiwa. They're all getting closer and closer. Sooner it'll be me, But the King always tells me, not you lah, you got a long life. How does he know? He told me. So anyway, for information now, I'm about the best of my health. Ironically, but who knows, So that was one way. After that, I said, wow, so many people, what happened to them? I don't know what happened to them. But you may become very aware of that. And although it may not be such a deep concentration, it contributes to the awareness and mindfulness, to the being in the here and now, to be being in the present, to live as much and as best as you can in the moment. Yes. Of course, there are many other ways to do it. And lastly, of course, one word is that you have to do metta. Metta is very important, especially in these times of COVID, in these difficult times. Because when difficult times, everybody is very sad. And I think people try to be cheerful, happy. Well, it's going to go away. It's still on. It's still on. Malaysia was okay. Now it's getting worse. Italy now is getting better because they're vaccinating people like mad. AstraZeneca, people die of thrombosis. They still vaccinate. They say it's a small price to pay. If it's not your life, it's a small price to pay. So now it's getting more stable, moving from the red to orange to the yellow, and slowly it's going to the white. When it goes to the white, that means you can do anything as normal. So metta is very important, and that's why now sometimes I'm very busy. I make a point for my last thing, 1 hour or 2 hours, just doing metta for somebody. I give it my hobby. Now my hobby is learning to be a healer. You'll be well and happy. You're not so powerful. Sometimes it works a bit. You can see it working, but it's not all the time. Not only depends on me, it depends on you also. Because healing is a two-sided thing. If you heal yourself, and then it's all one-sided thing. But if you heal somebody else, it's a two-sided thing. One simple rule in this: you cannot help somebody who is not willing to help himself. This is a cardinal rule in healing. You cannot help anybody if he does not help himself. It applies also to yourself. You must have faith to help yourself. You must have faith to help the other person. And besides the faith is the metta, loving kindness, compassion. And to make it effective, it is the insight. It's the wisdom faculty. It cuts into everything. In terms of conditioning, for example, or in terms of actual vipassana. Vipassana goes to the roots, the very, very roots. Samatha goes to the very deep, to the deeper subconscious. But more to the unconscious level is the vipassana. Healing. This is from my personal experience, if you can believe me. And of course, when it comes to metta, it is more effective if you can get into concentration, the absorptions. Then it becomes more powerful. I tried it with people. When I get absorption, I go in absorption heal and try to heal the person. Effect is immediate. Effect is immediate. How long it lasts, that's a different story. That's a different. How much the effect is, that's a different story. The effect is immediate, and you can see it. Okay, so you practice metta, at least you keep yourself happy, you keep yourself healthy, and so on. And this is a very important, and especially in this period where so many people are in a bad mood, grumbling. Recently, Henrik went back to Germany. They have very severe lockdown there, and everybody was really grumbling. Two couples were talking, and they were quarreling. This is what Germans do. It's a bit too general. It's often what happens now. And Italy is different. Italy is "mamma mia, mamma mia." You get a bit depressive and melodramatic. So you get these type of things. But if you need to really hold up yourself and hold up others, then you have to have very strong, pervasive metta. When people get better and they feel more positive, and then it comes back to you. And so this is how things go on and gets better. I think it's about time, huh? Okay, we stop here and see whether there are any questions.
There's one question, Reverend. Yeah.
Yeah. Comes under chat, is it?
Most bottom, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What question?
Has our comprehension of the Dhamma, can you read?
Been diluted by knowledge and culture rather than seeking? Of course, no. Of course, through the time, passed through so many hands and so many ideas and so many points of view and aspects. There's something to be diluted. Let's say, give example. For example, I give a Dhamma talk. First thing I give is instructions. Now, when I give instructions, I expect you to be there. Some people are not there. Oh, sorry, I didn't know. I always slept. No? So for those who are there, they are visited be, they hear some, they don't hear some, so they leave out some things. And then after that, some other thing may be thinking. So also they're distracted. So sometimes they think their thoughts are my instructions. So it gets a bit complicated. So finally, when they get whatever they understand from the talk and they start practicing, how much they can remember is one thing. And then how much they put into practice is another thing. How much they understand they should do is another thing. So going through all those filtration processes, finally what happened is not so much. Yeah. So what we have to do is to repeat again and again and again and again, like a brainwashing machine, And then slowly they get more than that. So finally they say, oh, I didn't know it was like that. I've told you umpteen times to you and Dhamma talks, but you never listen. I mean, you cannot. I can understand it because it happens so often to everybody. Yeah. So when you come to directing to culture, something. So when you pass from one culture to another, something else. They use different words. For example, when Buddhism went to China, they don't have a lot of words for it. They don't have the institution. The institution there was Taoism, but it has certain similarities. So what happened was they borrowed the temples and they borrowed the terminology from Taoism. I wouldn't say that they're so far apart. Many things are quite alike, but they're not exactly the same, and so on. And before he came to China, there was already another story from the Buddha's time, until when he went to China, Mahayana Buddhism, all those philosophies and ideas coming in. I wouldn't say they are wrong, but they're not exactly what the Buddha said, and probably a lot of them are what he meant. They have to change with the times, of course. And in the process, what happened? Dilution. They call it watering down, American words. That cannot be helped. So it's up to you, as a seeker, to find out the roots of it and pick up to it. The most important part is the practical aspect. For example, as I tell people very often, when I was in Burma, I asked a Swedish monk, he knows Pali and everything. I said, how long did you learn Pali to get to know Pali like you do now? I never knew Pali. I don't know Pali. They said, what? You are a Pali scholar, please. I don't know Pali. What he meant was a lot of words are so important that he doesn't understand. Things like jhanas, things like nibbana, things like magafala. What is that? They're all words. So he was being very frank. So in the same way, when you talk of this practice and Dhamma, well, you try our best. As far as I know, in terms of history, the closest canon to it is the Pali canon. Even now, when I do any reading and research, I go back to the Pali. My Pali is not, I'm not a Pali expert, but I can make something out of it after all these years. I've got to go back to the Pali source and look out for the Pali word. Actually, they meant this. For example, sankharas. Some people translate it as mental activities. Say, what? Cetasika, mental concomitance. And the first realized, this is a bombastic word, I don't understand. And then perception, sanya, perception. I said, what's perception? I look in the dictionary, that which perceives. That's not very helpful. So you see, so we are at the mercy of the translators. But what to do? We try to get what we get. Hopefully, when we practice, we get people who understand, explain to us, then okay. So we seem to be caught in scriptural beliefs and lost the power of common sense in the refuge of not knowing the sincere effort to seek by investigation the path rather than what we see in our scriptural beliefs and practices that is influenced by conviction of confidence that block the earnest effort toward the holy life experience and nature. Dukkha anatta as a realization. Correct, very good. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. From Ravi, whoever that is. Well done. There's another question down there.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. Another question.
When a person is ill.
No, there's another earlier one. What is Nibbana? Can you see?
Yeah, there's so many things here.
The last one, you scroll right to the bottom, Reverend. Scroll right to the bottom.
Scroll to the bottom.
Scroll right to the bottom in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, what is Nibbana? What is to have a glimpse of Nibbana? Nibbana is very simple. Nibbana is the truth. What has always been there, and what is there all the time. It is timeless. It is real. It is as real as anything can be. Okay? But it's easy to say that. So we have to consider other things. There are different things, like, for example, in the scriptures, Nibbana. What is Nibbana? They call it a cessation of suffering, cessation of craving. These do not define clearly really what Nibbana is. What is important in the definition given is that it points the way to how you can experience it. So because you cannot see something, so you see the bird there, can you see the bird on there? I point to you, there the bird, the yellow spot. Oh yes, I see it. No. In the same way, the best definition for Nibbana is the instruction. The definition could be far out or could be very near. That is also important as a guide. So that when somebody say they experience Nibbana, when he talks of something, I was in a beautiful place, all my dead relatives are there. Of course, it's not Nibbana, and that's very clear. Then if a person gets good meditation, then I go into a very peaceful state, like nothing. Is that Nibbana? And that is getting a bit more tricky. Because there's not a place, there's not a person, there's a state. But what state it is? Yes, how sure you are that it's Nibbana? Don't know. That means you're not sure, you don't know. When you're not sure, you have some doubts, it can't be. Because Nibbana is experienced by the sharpest and the clearest and the purest and the most lucid of mind. You cannot mistake it. As the saying goes, he who experiences Nibbana knows, but he who does not experience may think he knows. So the best way is just keep on practicing until you're 101% correct. Sure. If you have a good teacher, he can help you to decide. A good teacher will never give you any confirmation. He will give you certain exercises, he will ask you certain questions that will help you to decide where you are. Okay? So the glimpse of Nibbana actually means an experience. It's an experience. What the experience is comes as a reviewing knowledge. Just say you see something, you had a dream, you wake up, you remember your dream. Except that this is not clear. No? The other one is super clear. And from that, you know what it is. And from the way you describe, the teacher knows if he is enlightened. If he's not enlightened, I don't know. Of course, you don't know who is enlightened, who is not. So it depends on you finally. Okay. So many questions here now. Go back to the other one. When a person is ill, how do you balance between at peace with death and strive to be healed and get well? You don't have to decide. You just keep practicing. When you die, you die. You get healed, you get healed. Right? Just your all effort is done is just trying to be mindful in the present and the here now. That's all you can do, and that is not easy. It's a giant task. You don't have to think about getting well or dying also. In the moment of here now, there's no important. Dying and getting well are two aspects of life and death. What you need to do is cut through it with insight. So when you die, you'll be better. If you live, also you'll be better. Right? So it's a wrong question. Bhante mentioned that we have to go into our subconscious before we can do metta spiritually. I didn't say that, please. You can do it better. Okay? If you go into your subconscious and to your unconscious, you can do it better. But you don't, you can still do it to help and heal others. Depends on many other things like concentration and so on. Let's see. What else? Is there anything more? It doesn't work anymore.
I think there's a last question, Reverend. Last question. Yeah.
I suffer from arthritis and was told that consuming gin soaked resin will help overcome the pain. Will I be breaking a precept by taking and passing while taking in soaked resin? So do 3 times. This one I think you can ask Venerable Gawesi. It's called passing the baby. Bhante, does an enlightened person need to go through the stages of jhana was passing into parinirvana? Not necessary. Okay, parinirvana is parinirvana. If a person has attained the jhanas, then naturally he will go through the jhanas. He go to parinirvana. See, for if you parinirvana, then it's already an arahant, no? One who's asking this. Curious, somebody is very curious about how arahants pass away. So anyway, if he's arahant, he's already got some very good concentration, at least around the first jhana. No? Even the person who is not an anagami, but who is an anagami but has no jhanas, he will go to the first jhana before he be born in the Brahma world. Okay? Because the vipassana, you get to anagami, the concentration is already very strong. Only there is vipassana jhanas. Only vipassana jhanas. Okay? And it's probably a very high vipassana jhana. So, but we don't mention that. So what happens is, when you die, the strongest karma come into the front. Right? You have a heavy karma, so sorry guy, you're going somewhere bad, very dark. So, but if all the good karma, the strongest good karma will come in the forefront. This is what we call the heavy karma and so on, so on, so on. The strongest karma come, and this would be those with the strongest insight and strongest concentration. And And so they automatically come one after another. For people like Buddhas and all those Arahants with jhanas, they have been going up and down the jhanas and going to Nirodha Samapatti all the time, up, down, up, down, up, down. So in the last phase, it automatically goes into this strongest karma. Right? But if a person has not all these jhanas, then automatically, I think, like the anagami, you go into the first jhana, then parinibbana. This is what I think, if you follow according to the text. Because I asked this question to Long Paul, the MBMC teacher, and I asked it also to Sayadaw U Pandita. What happens to an anagami when he doesn't have any jhanas? How can he go to the Brahma realm? The answer was he will automatically go to the first jhana. It is logical because the concentration is there. It's just a shift of object. At this time, self-isolation, what would be the best advice on chanting? What advice? Chant as long as you like, chant as much as you like, chant day, chant night, chant evening, chant, until you go to deep jhanas. Okay, simple question. Is that all? Okay, huh? I will just do some, yes.
Yeah, that's all, Reverend. That's all. Okay.
Do some sharing of merits.
Okay.
Imina punya kamena upajaya gunutara acharyo pakara chama Bhante Pita Piya Magang Surya Chandi Maharaja Gunavanta Narabija Brahma Maharaja Indachalu Kapalaja Devata Yamomita Manu Sajamajata Very Kapicha Sabi Sata Suki Untuk Punyani Pekten Ini Sukajadi Udang Dan Bukitang Baperita Mumatang Imina punya kamena imina udisena caki pahang surabe cewa tan upadana cetanang yisantani hina dhamma yawani banatu mama nasantu sabadaya wayata jatuh pawe pawe ucucitu sati pernyasa liko wiryam hina marala bantu nuka sangkatu jawiri yesuwe Buddha di pawaro natu damo natu baru damo natu paciko samputu sampun natu daru amma Tesotama namawe namaropa samapatuma. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.